this tutorial, what we're going to learn about is AJAX using the jQuery.load method. So AJAX is something called asynchronous JavaScript and XML. And what it allows, well, the one thing to recognize is that it's not a scripting language itself. It's not a language at all. It's a method, a technique that you can use for web development. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to use the really nice features that jQuery offers in terms of the front end client-side scripting mixed together with server-side scripting. So you can call databases, you can run PHP, ASP, whatever backend you wish. You can run all that in the background while having a nice seamless front end running as well. So it's very nice. It's very useful as well. So in this activity, what we're going to look at is a lesson on the .load method. And what we're going to learn is how to call data from an external PHP file on the server and then reload a page without actually reloading the page. So there's a lot in this script that's actually very unnecessary. So, just to go through it quickly. So when you copy and paste this code, we've just got our standard HTML information. I've added this bare bones CSS style sheet so that we get a nice looking page without having to do a lot of work. It's quite nice. It's right out of the package. You just link to here. So, I mean, again, it's unnecessary to really get this thing to work, but just makes it look a little nicer. I've added some styles. I've added a paragraph style and something about a loading icon, something about a full page processing div as well, a wrapper, and then some body information. So again, this is actually not necessary for how the site works, but it does make it look nicer. What is key here is that you always must load your jQuery previous to using it. So I'm just grabbing the 9.1 version. This is an old version. There are other ones as well. I think I'm not sure what they're up to now, but it's definitely past 1.9.1. This is calling it externally. Better practice would be to download the current version, install it into your directory, and then call it that way. I'm calling it externally so you can actually just run this right out of the package without having to worry about downloading anything. Then what we do is we have our actual script, our jQuery script, which is going to do the work. And skipping down to this content here, you see I've added a processing div, which is empty at the moment. I've got a wrapper, and all that does is contain this data or this information. I've got my title, my H1 title, and my paragraph introduction here, and so that's it. Now what I've done down here is I've got a button, and so let's talk about how this actually works. So I've called a button, and it says I've given it the ID load now. I've also given this thing data-var4 called test4, and it says load external data. We'll get back to what that means later. Above it, I've commented out a line which is the exact same information, but it's an href as opposed to a button, just to show you that it doesn't matter which one you pick. A button is already styled nicely here compared to the href. So what happens? Well, it's got an ID called load now, and when we go to our jQuery here, you can say when the document's ready, so load the document, and then add this bit of code right here which says, now the .on is important for when you're loading content using jQuery. If you open up another object node, then if you don't have the .on set, then what happens is if you just use click, then what ends up happening is data that's loaded using jQuery is not part of the original object node, and since the page wasn't reloaded, it won't recognize that it's there. Using the .on actually gets rid of that feature for you, and it actually makes it so that it works even if you load that content externally. So here what we have is it says if we click the load now ID, the function, then I've got my E, and it ends down here. This is where we contain all the jQuery for the event handler of click. on this selector, which is the hashtag load now. So the first thing I put is prevent default. This means that if it was an href or a submit button or anything like that, then it would just automatically not submit the page, and it would do this stuff first, and then you would tell it what to do. So the e.prevent default is quite important if you don't want the page to reload. So you can use that all the time. So I've commented out everything here except for the alert data loaded. And maybe I'll change that to data loading, but not really. Okay. I'm going to be able to upload this data and we'll see what happens. So what this is going to do is quite simply, when I click the button, it's going to skip all this stuff and it's going to simply say send up an alert, and we'll just make sure that it's working. So I'm going to upload that. There we go. And data loading, but not really. There you go. So it's there. All right. Now, that's not useful, so I'm going to stop with that. Okay. That's just to make sure that this is actually working at that point. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add a few elements to this. So the one thing is I'm going to get it to load the data. So I'll get into all this other fancy stuff in just a minute. So here's how you use the .load method. It says look here, which is the ID called output. So down here, oh, here's a div called output. And it's got an ID called output. So it says whatever's this dot output, you're going to load, and then you load this file, and then you send in the variables. So here's a set of variables that I'm sending in to that. Now it's going to post that data to the load underscore data.php. And the data it's going to send is variable 1 will equal test, variable 2 will equal test2, variable 3 is equal to something called the ID, and variable 4 is something called the variable 4 or the var4. Now those aren't defined, so this is going to actually error and will not work. The JavaScript won't work if there's an error, if there's an undefined variable like that. So you can see I'm clicking and nothing's happening. So we know something's wrong. And the reason is that you must declare those variables. So what have I done? Well, here is a really interesting piece of code. It says variable the ID. Now the this selector says because I've clicked on this item, this one right here, it says get this information, and it says here dot attribute ID. So it says get the value of this thing that I've clicked, the ID attribute. And in this case it's called load now. So this, the ID, should be called load now. The var4 is the same thing. The selector is this, and that's because it's saying I've clicked this, and here I've used the data attribute. So the data is you just use this data dash, and then this is the variable name right there. You can change that to anything you want. You can call it Hulk. It doesn't matter. You can call it anything you want, and that's the value it's going to get. So this is to show you that you can send in, and you can send in multiple data values through this. You don't just have to send one. It could be anything you want if you want to send data and post it using the .load method. So now if I save this and upload it and do this, you'll see that it outputs the world, hello world. Variable 1 was test. Well, that's what I called it right there. Variable 2 was test2, which is right there. Variable 3 was called load now, and that's because it got the ID of this value. And test of R4 was test4, and that came about because that was actually what I put here. That was the value of that. I could change this to whatever I want. It could be AJAX is fun, like so. And when I do this, reload this page, you'll see AJAX is fun. And notice this page didn't reload. You know, it's not reloading when I do this page. It's just outputting the value right into the div. Because if you view the page source, you will actually not see anything in that div. It's empty. Do you see that? The data that I loaded in there doesn't even show up in here. Okay, and that's part of this whole idea that um, when you load it, it actually loads in, but it doesn't become part of the object node on the page, which is a very, very important distinction. Okay, so what we're going to do now is play around with some other stuff. We're now going to make this look, well, I'll show you the load data. Here you go. This is the page I wrote. Echo, hello world. Variable 1. And see, I use the post var1, post var2, post var3, post var4. So this is the very simple page I created to output this data. Okay, so it's looking for these values. And you just simply echo them out however you want. So let's make this look a little bit nicer. One thing you can do is you can do this. You can add a wrapper with a set timeout function and set it to 2 seconds, 2000 milliseconds. And when I save it and upload it, reload this page, just there we go. 1, 2, there you go. So it waits 2 seconds before it actually displays the data. And you're like, okay, great. Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the processing. And what I'm going to do is say processing. I'm going to fade that in, because if you go up here, the processing says position fixed, blah, 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 display none. That's really important. The display none means it's not actually on the screen. So it's invisible at this point in time. So when the page loads, it actually sees this 100% width, 100% height, semi-transparent background that's position fixed to the top left. It's text alignment is centered. Everything's there, but it's not displaying it. And so that was right at the top here, outside of our wrapper, right there. So it says fade in slowly and post or send this data. And all that is an image. It's this GIF image that's there, and you'll be able to download that. And it just says do that. Now I've given it a class loading icon, and that's right here just to give it a size and a position on the page. So after the 2 seconds, I have to make sure that I fade out that whole div, so that div disappears. So now what does this look like? There you go. So it loads it, and of course it's not there, and then it loads. So there you go. So that's a neat way to make it look like it's loading something in the background, and really all we're doing is calling this script. So just to show you what you can do with the data var here, you can actually do something like this. You can say data var 5 AJAX is really cool, like so. Come up here and say, well, let's see, I want to get the value of that, so I'll just create another variable, call it the var 5, this dot data var 5, and of course I have to pass it explicitly into the post option of that load function, like so. There we go. And here I better actually echo out that value, otherwise nothing will happen. Now there's no real callback to this at this point. We'll use the .post method to get that. And there you go. And it didn't load. Oh yeah, because I didn't upload the other file. And there it is. Now, none of these are showing up. And let's take a look why. var 5. So which one stopped showing up? We got test 1, test 2. var 3 was the ID. This dot attribute. Oh, it didn't like me doing this. Okay, just oh, where's some of this? So clearly it didn't like me adding in that additional data variable, and still does not like it. What has gone wrong here? So again, this is a good chance to show you how some troubleshooting uh, can play a role in this, and it's very interesting sometimes just to figure out what's happened uh, when you think it's running smoothly, and then all of a sudden you hit a little glitch, and there's nothing wrong with that. See how it stopped? It stopped pulling out var 3 and var 4 from here. And so okay, so the issue was very simple. What you have to do is when you're declaring these variables, they have to be outside of this function right here, the set timeout function. And the reason for that is that these have to be global variables within this context. So when you click this, by putting them inside of another function, they weren't global anymore, which means that this part up here was looking for this was defined out here, but not inside here. So you have to define it outside of it. I'll update the code on the page to match that. So when we come down here, like I said before, we can come here and we can add something like this, variable 5, var 5, AJAX is fun, like so. Come up here, put that data back, and go to our load data here. And add this back in, like so, and I'll update that to perfect. And then what I do is upload these two things and refresh the page, and here we go. And you can see that it did not work. So let's take a look here. var 5, data var 5, and I did declare it up there. Oh, and you have to make sure you explicitly pass it. That's where the .post comes in really handy. You can serialize forms and things like that, but here, if you're not careful, you will forget to do that, and you'll run into those errors. So there we go. And there you go. So you can see it posted it up. So that's a quick tutorial with some minor hiccups, but I hope those hiccups helped with the learning a little bit, just to realize that you have to declare these globally. It's important that when you're sending in the different variables, you send it in like this. You don't have to send in variables. That's the other thing that you can also recognize. You can get rid of all of this like so, and you can just load a page. And you literally can send in no data whatsoever, and you can just load a page that you want to load without any variables, and that will also work. But typically you want to send something in just to verify that the page is loading or whatnot. So that's up to you. Again, a lot of this is just to make it look fancy, so you can play around with that. There's lots of different ways of doing that, but I wanted to show you that you can get different values and things like that. And I wanted to show you this as well. If I add a class to this, and I'll make a class that doesn't exist, it's a test class. Okay, so this is not even a class that exists, but no big deal. So what we can do is you could also figure out what the class is. I just always call it the same thing so I don't confuse it. So now that's not what I want. I want to get the attribute called class and find out what it is. I'm just going to change it right here. So var3 is going to be the class. Save it. I'll upload it. Do that, and There it is, test class. And that's why I called it down here. I called it test class. So you can get the class, you can get the ID, you can get the variables. There's lots of information. You can look it up to find all the different things you can do with that. All right, that's it for now. Copy and paste the code, have a look at it, see how it works for you, and then play around with it a little bit before moving on to the dot post.